Okay, so I went ahead and added a bunch more pins here, and if we look on the pins page, we can see the formatting is a little funky here. So I'm going to open up my index page, and I noticed that at the end of this if statement there is no line break. So I'm going to add one here, and then for good measures we're going to put another one at the end. Hopefully that'll space things out a little bit. Okay, so, but again, there's a big gap between these two, so let's look and see what's going on here. Got a BR. Let's change this to P. See if. Oh, that's what it was doing. That's fine. We don't need a BR right here, so let's take that one off. And that should clear up that little gap there. There we go. So, okay, so we've got a bunch of pins here. We've got a bunch of images. Oh, this still isn't quite right. So after the username, there we go. Okay, so that's looking better. So if we click on one of these things, so we've got all these pins. They're not really lined up the way we want. They're not sort of tiling across the screen. They're going straight down. And also they don't exactly look like pins like a Pinterest pin would. So now it's time to make a change to handle those things. And we're going to be using something called JQuery Masonry. We do a search here. For JQuery Masonry. So here it is. It's basically, you can see if we resize this browser, see everything sort of moves in this animated way. That's what Masonry does. It's a cascading grid layout, and it's JavaScript, some jQuery, some little CSS, and that's what we're going to be using to handle our Pinterest stuff, right? So we don't want to download these packages. We need to install two things. One is TurboLinks, jQuery TurboLinks, and the other thing is Masonry itself. So let's head over to our gem file. And for TurboLinks, you can see we've already got TurboLinks here. But this is jQuery TurboLinks, which is slightly different, and we don't need a version number for that. Save that. There is actually a gem for this, and if we go to rubygems.org and search for Masonry Rails, we'll see we got version 0.2.4, so that's what we'll use. Put that in there, save it, and like any other time we add gems to our gem file, we need to run bundle install. Just take a moment. Now, we also need to add a few more things. We need to tell our JavaScript thing to use Masonry. So go up to assets. Remember, we have these three file folders: images, JavaScripts, and style sheets. And the style sheets is where we had our bootstrap style, and the JavaScript, this is where your JavaScript stuff is. So open the application.js, and remember this dot at the bottom, it means use all of the files that are in this folder, right? So above that, I'm just going to type in require masonry / jQuery.masonry, just like that, and save it. Now this also uses CSS, so we need to update our application style sheet as well. And to do that, we type in require masonry transitions. Look at the documentation here. It shows you the things that you need to do to install this thing. I've just been punching them in without looking at the documentation, but you can look at the documentation. Here's all the things you can put on that CSS file we just edited. This does masonry basics, centered, fluid, gutters, infinite scroll. You've seen an infinite scroll on websites where they just keep scrolling forever. That does that. We're just going to be using this transition, so that's the only one I copied. Paste it right there. Similarly, for the JavaScript, here's the line we just pasted into our application folder right here. And some optional stuff we don't really need. So then it tells us how to use this thing, and basically we're going to be adding these IDs to and classes to what we want this to affect. And in our case, it's going to be these things, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is head back over to our views, pins, index, and I want to wrap. Let's make some space here. So this is the code, right, that outputs all of this. And this is just a do loop for each pin. Do this stuff, right? So what we want to do is wrap all of this in a div with ID pins. Okay. So now we need to define what pins is in our style sheet. So let's head back up to our apps assets folder and look at our style sheets. And we have some options here. We could put it in this pins.css folder. We could probably stick it in our bootstrap down here. But since this is a pin, I don't know, let's just call it all pins. So this is the code I'm going to put. Now I'll place this below the video so you can copy and paste it. But it's very simple. It's just saying pins, which is this pins, this div ID. It's saying have a margin of 0, have a box of margin 5 and 214 width, and that box should have a width of 100% of 214. Now, we haven't done anything with the box. What's the box? Well, let's do that here in a second. But first, let's hit reload and just see if anything's happened here. Okay, so it's asking for turbo links. We forgot that we added to our gem file this turbo links thing, right? So let's go to rubygems.org, check out jQuery turbo links, documentation. So one thing we did incorrectly, it looks like. It says to add this to our JavaScript manifest file in this order. It wants jQuery turbo links right under jQuery. So let's take a look at our JavaScript manifest. We've just been editing it. So we need to put that right underneath jQuery. Go ahead and save that. Still an error. Here's one thing. So this should go on the outside. And on the inside, we need a div with a class equals box. That's where I was messing that up. There we go. This isn't going to fix our error, but it is going to help in a little bit. What we need to do is add a little bit of JavaScript to our pins.js.coffee. So basically what this is doing is this is a little bit of coffee script here, some JavaScript stuff, and what it's saying is for stuff in the pins, which is this guy right here, select the box and make that the masonry object, and that box is this guy right here. So everything inside of this do stuff for. So let's save all this, hit reload, and hopefully couldn't find the file masonry transitions. All I did was I shut down the server and restarted it. I hit stop and then restart, and then I hit reload, and when I did, boom, it all worked. So sometimes you just have to restart your server, especially after you add a new gem file or something. And I guess it kind of makes sense in this case because we were making a bunch of changes to layouts and JavaScript stuff and all that stuff. So now you can see we've got these all tiled across like we want. Click on one, that's still the same as it used to be. So let's see if we resize this. They just boom, 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 boom. They just change, they resize automatically, but they don't do that cool sort of animated thing. So that's what we need to do next. And that's a masonry thing. So let's head back over to the masonry documentation, and we should be able to find under usage. Okay, so your main container, you need to have this. So this is our main container. Ours says pins right here for the ID, and it has no class. But for class, we need to enable these transitions. We're not using the scroll or the clear fix, but we are doing that. So head back over to our home, our index pins page, and I'm just gonna pop in class equals transitions enabled. And if we save that, hopefully hit reload, and then whoop, there we go. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Pretty cool, huh? I like this a lot. This is really cool to me. I don't know why. It's not such a big deal, but it's very cool. So we've got animation in our page just by adding a few lines here and there, adding a couple of JavaScript things, and styling our CSS a little bit. So these still don't really look like Pinterest pins. I mean, they're starting to get there, but all we really need to do is wrap them in a panel or something, and basically we've got it. So let's log out real quick and go to pins, see what it looks like logged out. Pretty much the same. We just don't have the links that let us edit them and whatnot, but we can still click on them. Let's log back in real quick. And let's open up our Bootstrap page and go to components and panels. Now we've used these panels in the past for the form, but we can also use them for these pins. I think they're actually very good to use for all kinds of different things. So let's go to our index page, our pins index page, and let's play around here. Let's add that in. So this is our panel default. And panel body directly below that. Have all this stuff in again. Save that and take a look and see how that looks. Okay, well, that's not really what we wanted. It's sort of what we wanted, but we want these images to completely go to the edges here. So what do we do? Let's put this main panel outside of all of it. No, that is just not right. Okay. Oh, it was right the first time, but this should be, so we want the image to be at the top, and then the body to be the stuff below, the words and stuff. So there we go. Let's try that. That should do it. There we go. So looking pretty good. I don't really like that extra space at the bottom. So let's take out this BR that's at the end there. So that's cool. So we can also stick these edit and destroy buttons in a bottom panel if we want. Go down to panel with footer. There we go. So if user is logged in, goes over, close that div, hit reload. Oops. We need to close this div before we do that. There we go. That should do it. Okay. That's, you know, whatever your preference is. Now we can play around with this text too if we really wanted to. So let's say in username, we can type in a class of, let's say, wrap this in an EM. And now that's sort of italicized. Maybe. We can make it bold if we want instead. Spelled strong. There we go. That's kind of cool. You know, you can play around and make it look however you want. If we log out, look at pins. That bottom footer isn't going to be on there because those links aren't here. But yeah, I think that's all for this video. In the next video, we will play around with this page right here and make it look a little bit more the way we want it to.